Fox News Channel.
An ethics panel finding that House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Charlie Rangel broke House rules over trips he took to the Caribbean.
I'm sharing with you all of the information I know, so asking me questions would just embarrass me because I can't give you answers.
Republican Congressman John Carter from Texas proposed the Rangel rule in 2009, and he joins us now. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
What's the Rangel rule?
Well, the Rangel rule had to do with taxes. Mr. Rangel had a little problem with reporting some income, and then when he didn't pay the taxes, for some reason the IRS didn't charge him penalty and interest, and I thought if the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee should be able to get waived penalty and interest, then everybody who failed to pay their taxes and then started paying it back shouldn't have to pay it. Everybody ought to get treated equally in this country. It was really a way to put a spotlight on what's going on with Mr. Rangel, and he's still got lots of other questions that need to be answered besides this one.
Well, and you know, Congressman, you're not alone. There are now 4 Democratic representatives who are calling for Charlie Rangel to step down as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. But the real issues are the ones you talked about. The pending issues, that he failed to pay taxes on villa rental income, that he failed to disclose hundreds of thousands, as high as $600,000 in assets and income. Also, he did some fundraising for a center at New York University named after him with official stationery. The charge that he's guilty of is of accepting trips that were sponsored by corporations. The New York Post is reporting that his aides showed him documents with the corporate sponsorship on them. Is that enough for him to step down or for someone to call for his resignation at this point?
Well, yes, I'm going to file a resolution next week asking for him to step down. But if you read the letter that was put out by the Ethics Committee, they said that Mr. Rangel, all the evidence showed that Mr. Rangel knew that his staffers informed him of the nature of the corporations being involved in that trip, and he's trying to lay it all off on his staff right now, which I think is a very shameful thing to do.
Well, not only is he basically throwing his staff under the bus, what Mr. Rangel is also doing, and his defense seems to be, hey, the ethics committee approved this trip, so that's the litmus test. I go if they approve it. Does he have a point there?
Well, I mean, he seems to think that he relied upon it, but we also know even if the ethics committee makes a mistake, you know, we know that we're not supposed to take corporate contributions. I mean, that's pretty clear, everybody up there. And one of the first things I learned when I got to Congress was that you have culpability even if it's your staff. So you're responsible for your staff, and you got to watch out for what they do, and you have to make sure they follow the rules.
And he had been taking these trips for 10 years. You would think the guy in charge of writing tax law would know that those rules changed several years ago. But let me ask you about Nancy Pelosi. She basically said she's not going to call for him to resign. Yet a couple of years ago, we remember the famous statement about draining the swamp of ethical misconduct. Is she being a little hypocritical here, criticizing the Republicans as she did several years back, and now doing nothing about Rangel?
She's either being hypocritical or she's living in Never Never Land, because she was asked yesterday about the same question. She said, oh, we have created an ethical Congress, which I would argue just the opposite. The swamp is still full, and there's alligators everywhere, and they're up to their necks in alligators right now.
Congressman John Carter, the author of the Rangel rule, thanks for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Coming up.